Good afternoon, everyone. Hope you're all well. As Colin said, my name is Rory O'Mahony, and I'm the sales manager for Smurfit Kappa Ireland. And my colleague supporting me today on this webinar is Gary Brown, and Gary's our design country coordinator.
Hi, everyone.
So I hope you can see now the agenda for this afternoon's webinar. So I will cover sustainability and the Smurfit Kappa initiative that we've developed to support our customers' sustainability targets, which is Better Planet Packaging. Gary will touch on packaging for online sales and some frustration-free packaging for the home delivery market. He'll also touch on two unique Smurfit Kappa tools called eSmart and e-commerce. And then I'll finish up with a few slides on the safe return to work during the COVID-19 pandemic. So starting off with sustainability and Better Planet Packaging. So as many of you are aware, before the outbreak of COVID-19 and this awful worldwide pandemic, sustainability had become the #1 topic for many manufacturers. And now, as we begin to come out of lockdown and return to some sort of normality, whatever that new normal is, we do expect it to become a focal point very quickly again. So the question is, why had sustainability become such a hot topic? Well, it's all about consumer awareness. As most of you are aware, most businesses have had sustainability targets that normally they strive to achieve every year. And that's basically to minimize any negative impact they have on the local environment. But in saying that, has it always been the #1 target in any given year? Well, then in 2018, David Attenborough's Blue Planet hit our TV screens in all our living rooms, and that all changed. What we all saw then was the waste and the litter and the damage it was doing to our forests, our beaches, our seas, and our wildlife. And the thing was, we knew it was our waste. We couldn't blame somewhere else for it. So we, the consumer, became more conscious of the damage our waste was having on the environment. And obviously then we felt compelled to make changes. So with pressure from consumers, we then started to see, for example, large supermarkets making big public statements with regards to waste reduction, and in particular, reductions in packaging, reductions in plastic, and in particular, reductions in single-use plastic. This then led to local councils and governments making similar statements. And then finally, it led to new EU laws on waste reduction. So as you can see there on the slide, from next year, plastics, single-use plastic like straws, stirrers for coffee, polystyrene cups, fast food packaging are all banned from 2021. By 2025, plastic use where there is no alternative has to be reduced by 25%. So that's a 25% reduction on essential plastics. So that means all businesses will now have to look at all the plastic they currently use and decide themselves, can this be replaced or can it be drastically reduced? Or if it can't be reduced, can I prove and take responsibility for it being recycled? The reason why manufacturers are under most pressure is that packaging waste makes up 40% of all the litter in the environment. Packaging waste is obviously the main contributor. So 40% of all packaging ends up in landfill. And in fact, 80% of all the plastic used ends up in landfill. And we as Europeans cannot say that this is an Asian problem, this is an America's problem. It's not. We are a major contributor. In fact, before 2017, we exported 50% of all our plastic waste to China. So we were moving the problem from Europe to Asia. Obviously, post 2017, this has drastically reduced. But it's not actually the packaging itself that's the issue. It's what happens to it once it's been used. We know packaging is essential for safe delivery of all our products. The question is, can we stop it ending up in the environment? And can we stop it ending up on the environment on every single occasion? And if we can't do it on every single occasion, can we at least ensure that if it happens to end up in the environment, that it doesn't damage it? You can see from the table there that fortunately for us at Smurfit Kappa, 93% of all our corrugated board and paper is collected and recycled. And the 7% that falls outside the recycling loop will biodegrade in the natural environment. Paper comes from natural fibres, so it has no negative impact on the flora and fauna. In fact, paper will biodegrade quicker than an orange peel. It actually takes less than 3 months for paper to biodegrade in the natural environment. So in terms of packaging waste that ends up as litter, we have at one end of the scale paper and corrugated board that will biodegrade in less than 3 months. And then you have at the other end of the scale, say plastic and glass, that can take anything from 1,000 years to God knows how long to disappear. So the question the consumer is asking is, why are we packing products that may only have a shelf life of weeks into packaging that's going to be with us for thousands of years, and more than likely packaging that's going to end up at landfill sites or in the environment causing damage? And although the consumer is more aware of their own responsibility, obviously they expect the manufacturers to take the lead. They want us to make it easier for them to recycle. So this is why Smurfit Kappa developed our own initiative called Better Planet Packaging, is to support our customer base and help them achieve the goal of reducing their packaging waste and obviously the litter that ends up in landfill and damaging in our oceans and our seas. First example here of a more sustainable pack is the fruit punnet. And you can see here from our own research that 75% of shoppers prefer the paper-based punnet. Reason being is it's easy for the customer to identify the paper-based punnet as 100% recyclable. When they look at the plastic punnet, they're not sure if it's biodegradable, they're not sure if it's recyclable. So it's very easy for them to determine that paper-based is recyclable and therefore good for the environment. Top Clip is our unique solution that removes the need for ring pulls and plastic shrink wrap. So this is an excellent idea that we've been working on. And we've all seen photos, even in the Blue Planet, we saw it, of the damage that ring pulls do to marine wildlife. They're a terrible thing. So not only can we replace these plastic ring pulls with the Top Clip, and ensure then that your product is plastic free, you can also print your name, your company logo, so therefore you can enhance your brand by printing on the top of these Top Clips. Another example is the Nord Group, and this can be used for reducing shrink wrap around plastic bottles. So normally you can see in the supermarket, you can see half-litre, even up to 3 and 4 litre big bottles that are normally shrink wrapped in pairs in supermarkets. So this corrugated solution removes the need for the shrink wrap, and it's exceptionally strong. You can actually throw the bottles up in the air and they won't break. So therefore, you're replacing the plastic, the single-use plastic, with a 100% recyclable option. This slide shows what can be done through design with paper-based buffers. And obviously the paper-based buffers fully protect the product. So we've removed all the plastic, we've removed all the polystyrene that cannot be recycled, and replaced it with corrugated inserts. And the corrugated inserts fully protect the product, and then the consumer also knows that this is fully recyclable. So how can we help you to reduce your packaging waste? Well, what we will do is we offer all guaranteed Irish members a free Supply Smart audit. So what we do is we take a look at your packaging and your processes on your site, your plant, your operation, and then we give you a full report from this audit. So we carry out an audit, we send in a team, and we send you the full report. And not only will the full report show you how to improve your packaging, but there will also be cost takeout ideas within that report. So what's in it for us? well, obviously there's nothing free in this world, but for us, it's the potential to pick up new business. So now I'm going to hand over to my colleague Gary, who's going to take you through frustration-free packaging.
Okay, thank you, Rory. Thanks to everybody for staying in tune with us and listening to what we have to say. Hopefully you'll come away with a few new ideas and insights into the world of packaging. I think one of the challenges that myself and Rory had before today was how do we compress the huge volume of information within the packaging world today into such a short 30-minute time slot. The strategy really is just to pick the most current topics and give you a few bullet points on them. Obviously, Rory spoke about sustainability and our better planet packaging. What I want to talk about today is e-commerce, and in particular packaging's role within e-commerce. It's a very hot topic at the minute, particularly over the last few months, where a lot of businesses are only surviving as a result of their e-commerce chains. So one of the areas that we're working on at the minute is actually with Amazon, who are, as we all know, probably one of, if not the biggest e-retailer in the world at the minute. And a permanent headache that Amazon have suffered over the years is their packaging. A lot of their complaints that they get back are all to do with packaging failures, consumers having trouble even opening packaging. They've actually coined a phrase for that. They call it wrap rage. So all of those things they wanted to eliminate. And in an effort to do that, they came up with their dream of what packaging should be, and they call it frustration-free packaging. Now, they launched that program a good number of years ago, and it was a little bit of a slow burner for them. And what they did almost 2 years ago was they asked us to have a look at it for them. They asked us to come into partnership with them as a packaging expert and as a company with a lot of experience in making packaging and obviously, examining supply chains and so on. And we seemed ideal for them. So we did that. And as you can see here, the reason they came to us is essentially because at Smurfit Kappa, we love science. We love big data. We love to measure things. We have a phrase and it goes, if you can measure it, you can manage it. And that's very helpful for something as complex as an e-commerce supply chain because it's littered with complexity. And on the screen there in front of you now, you can see some of the tools that we have developed to help take some of the confusion and complexity out of e-commerce. And essentially, they're not much to look at, but essentially what we do is we input data into each of these tools. And depending on what the purpose is, that data can advise us on the best material to use. It can advise us on certain products and certain supply chains and the various hazards associated with those supply chains, what items are likely to be damaged in certain conditions and so on. It takes the guesswork out of developing packaging for a particularly challenging supply chain such as e-commerce supply chains. So Rory, if you want to jump on, thanks. Amazon's FFP standard is now a ISTA certified standard. It's something that we are qualified to test for on behalf of Amazon and certify on behalf of Amazon. It's a 52-page document and it's highly technical, but in summary, essentially what they're trying to do is the first picture there, they don't want plastic. They want all the materials that are used in Amazon packaging to be recyclable. They want it easy to open. They want to eliminate that wrap rage that I mentioned. And they also want to minimize, or maybe optimize might be a better word there, void fill. I mean, we've all experienced packs that, for myself, for example, I ordered a phone cover not too long ago, and it came in a pack that, you probably could have fit the whole phone box into. And that's the kind of wastage that goes on. And that's what they're looking to eliminate, essentially. So if you want to move on there, Rory. To give you some examples of the headaches that Amazon have and part of the solutions that we've come up with in recent years. For example, on the left, there's a typical remote control stroke electronic device, and it comes with all the usual cables and chargers and peripherals and, you know, CDs and so on. And traditionally, that type of product would be packed into a kind of a plastic clamshell type pack with a backboard on it that would be printed, showing off all the information about the product. And it would be attached with either molded inserts, cable ties, even plastic nuts and bolts, and they can be a nightmare to take apart. And even that pack alone would not get that product through its supply chain. It would have to go into an outer case. So, and that of course would add extra costs to the whole thing. So Amazon's FFP version of that is what you see on the left. It's a simple corrugated box that would go through the whole FFP ISTA test procedure, be certified, and would do the very same job, except a lot more efficiently. Also there on the right hand side, there's an example of a typical toy. This case is a Fisher-Price toy. We've all experienced these things as well in the past. You know, these things are strapped in with toys and staples and various different types of little plastic attachments and cables, and they can be in some cases actually dangerous to try and take them apart. Amazon want that eliminated. They now use FFP in most cases for toys, and it's a simple, the solution in this case was a simple box, fit for purpose with various inserts that hold each thing in place. All the inserts again are made of corrugated, so it's a mono material that the final consumer gets, and it's easy for them to dispose of and deal with. So finally on FFP then, that's the certificate that you would get with frustration-free packaging approved product. There's 3 different tiers that you can qualify for, and Smurfit Kappa in coordination with Amazon are approved to test and approve any product or pack for FFP certification. There's various advantages of using this certificate. It's not mandatory, I need to say that, but it is pushed by Amazon, and they are, you know, they're kind of forcing this, and its use is growing as time goes on. So if you can move on for me, please, Rory. Just widening away from the FFP stuff and staying within e-commerce. At Smurfit Kappa, we have a service that we call eSmart, and it's all about dealing with e-commerce supply chains. As I mentioned again already, e-commerce is incredibly complex. What you see there in front of you now is a typical brick and mortar supply chain, which is your standard supply chain, as you might already know it. It's very simple. It's out the door, into a truck, possibly to a distribution center, onto your retailer, and away with the consumer. So each step of the way in a typical brick and mortar supply chain is easily controlled. It's manageable, it's traceable and trackable throughout the whole supply chain. Whereas e-commerce, you're bringing in a whole range of different factors along the way. There could be multiple stops, multiple distribution centers, multiple different couriers, multiple different ways that your pack and product gets treated. You lose control of it. It can be very, very difficult, and your packaging needs to be able to stand up to a whole lot more you know, rigorous type of movement than would normally happen in a standard supply chain. So thanks, Rory. eSmart, essentially, what we try and do with it is demystify the supply chain, the e-commerce supply chain. And the way we do that is we analyze it, we break it down into a step-by-step procedure. And within that procedure, we have it broken up into the main areas where we need to examine. And what we do is we set up gateways of approval within each of those sections there. And you know that when you're developing a pack with this process, because essentially that's what eSmart is, it's basically just a process that allows you to develop a pack specifically for that supply chain and consider all the factors and hazards that you may consider along the way, that you may encounter along the way, and make sure you're developing a pack fit for purpose. So next one there, please, Rory. Same slide again, more or less, but this time each main header is broken into the 12 areas that we examine through eSmart. So with eSmart, we examine four stages within each main process of pack development fit for e-commerce supply chains. So the next one then, please, Rory. What we're doing in Ireland at the moment is we're engaged in a bit of an e-commerce market study. And we're finding all sorts of surprising and conflicting information out there. For example, 22% of Irish SMEs have no online presence at all. Yeah, it's true that a lot of businesses don't necessarily need an online presence, but certainly not as many as 22% of them. And some of the feedback that we're getting is that a lot of businesses and companies out there don't know how to handle e-commerce supply chains. They don't understand it. They can't set it up properly. They're afraid to go into that area. They don't like losing control of their product and their stocks through supply chains and so on. So there's a lot of hesitant type of attitude out there in SME businesses towards e-commerce. And what we're trying to do with eSmart is to try and help businesses not to be afraid to venture into this area. So if you move on, Rory. And an example of that is obviously with what's been going on the last few months is a lot of businesses have been forced to shut down and stop operating essentially because, you know, they don't have a way of doing business anymore once they're closed. What we've done is we've reached out to a number of businesses and restaurants and retailers and grocery businesses. And we've said to them, look, it is possible for you to remain open, to remain operational to at least some extent during this time, if you invest in an e-commerce supply chain, if you set yourself up to be an e-commerce business. So some of the packs there you can see on the screen are the type of thing that we work with these restaurants. You've probably seen some of the stuff before where they'll, you know, you can go online, you can choose from their menu, they put together a pack for you and they deliver it to you. Sometimes you cook it yourself, sometimes it's partially prepared for you, but it's just a way of applying our e-commerce knowledge to help these businesses out during this time so that they can stay in operation. So really what I spoke about there is just a summary of what we're working on in that area to help businesses and to you know, tackle and improve Irish e-commerce, because, you know, the stats show that we're great at buying through e-commerce, but, you know, from a business point of view, we're a little bit behind the trend. So thanks a million. I'll pass it back to yourself, Rory, if you want to continue. Cheers.
Thanks, Gary. So I'd just like to finish up with a few slides on return to work and safe working conditions. So look, as we've had the ability ourselves, because we can print and make our own stands, our own signage, our own posters, we were very quickly able to make our own plants safe for our own people to continue to come to work. And so using this experience, we launched our Design for Help program as far back as March. So what we were able to do then is offer our own customer base free signage, free stands, and we gave away about €20,000 of free product to our customers. And that was basically to help them make their operations a bit safer for their employees. So the things we're talking about there are gel stations, temperature stands, dividers, posters, etc. All things that help support social distancing within the workplace. And they're fairly inexpensive, but very effective ways of, as I said, ensuring social distancing and making sure that, you know, we meet all the health and safety regulations and guidelines during this difficult period. Lastly, I have a little slide. I know I just put it in there because it's only information that's come through this week, but you can see from recent research that consumers are still nervous about, you know, the virus transfer from packaging. But you can see from the slide down at the bottom there, the perception is it's a lot safer. They feel a lot safer handling paper-based packaging than they do handling plastic. I think it's more to do with the fact that, you know, with the smooth surfaces of metal and plastic, and the fact that they're waterproof, that people think that the virus will survive there longer. But it's just an interesting insight to the consumer, and the fact that they feel a little bit more comfortable handling paper-based packaging. So thank you for listening. Has anyone any questions? Myself and Gary will feel free, we'll answer them now, and feel free to contact us at any time.
Perfect. Thank you very much, both Gary and Rory. That was very interesting. It was great to see. I've experienced, as you said, wrap rage many times myself. So it's great to see a new and sustainable solution coming on stream. I just have one or two questions there coming in from the audience. So the first one is, what exactly is involved in a supply smart audit, and is it free for everyone?
Yeah, well, a supply smart audit, what normally happens is, and we've been doing this for a long time, we will send in our designers, our technical people, and our logistics personnel. So it's a team, it's called a supply smart audit team. We send them into the plant. Depending on the size of your operation, it normally takes about half a day. But we look at your processes and your packaging, and we look from goods inwards right through to your dispatch and warehouse. And we develop a report. We ask a lot of questions to a lot of people, and then we develop an extensive report that contains cost takeout offers and cost takeout ideas, and as well as that, some ideas around sustainable packaging as well. So it's a very effective tool that we've been using for a long time, and has proved very effective for our customers.
Brilliant. Brilliant. And I believe you're saying that it's free for just guaranteed Irish members. Is that right?
Yeah, if any guaranteed Irish member is interested, all they have to do is contact us. You can see the contact details up there. Contact either myself or Gary, and we will speak to them and set up a supply smart audit.
Perfect, perfect. And then just the final question is, how would listeners get more information on the e-commerce or e-smart solutions?
Thanks, Colin. The simplest way really would be to go onto our website, smurfitcappa.com, and you will see those two particular subjects highlighted, and you can read more about it there, and you can also follow up with ourselves directly through the contacts there on the final slide.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Gary. And thank you all for joining us this week. Don't forget to join us next week where we have a slightly different webinar. We will have Dan Bryan from Genpack Foods showing us how to bake some delicious brownies while sharing some GEMS kitchen wisdoms with us. So we look forward to that, for some nice brownies freshly baked by Dan. Thank you all for joining again, and we will see you next week. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye now.